أهلا ومرحبا بكم مرة أخرى. والآن مع الجلسة الثانية للمؤتمر يتسلمها مدير الجلسة الأستاذ إبراهيم بن علي السقاف، مدير قسم المراقبة الأمنية والتفتيش بالإدارة المركزية لأمن الطيران بالهيئة العامة للطيران المدني.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. في البداية أحب أنوه إذا في أحد من الأخوان الزملاء يحب يقترح توصيات للمؤتمر يكون يقدمها للمهندس عبد الله الردادي، وله جزيل الشكر. نستهل الآن الجلسة الثانية، وسيكون لدينا متحدثين: المهندس أرتورو جارسيا ألونسو والمهندس طارق الطالبي. المحاضرة الأولى سوف تكون عن التسهيلات وتأثيرها على أمن الطيران، والمحاضرة الثانية سوف تكون عن التحديات في تطبيق اللوائح التنفيذية وبرامج الأمن في المطارات والشحن الجوي كحالة دراسية. المهندس أرتورو جارسيا ألونسو مساعد مدير التسهيلات وتقنية المعلومات بمجلس المطارات العالمي، حاصل على شهادة الماجستير في هندسة الطيران، ولديه درجة عليا في السلامة والصحة، وهو متخصص في تصميم وإدارة المطارات، وحاصل على شهادة إدارة أمن الطيران الاحترافية، ويعمل مدرب في خدمات المطارات والجودة، وعضو في كلية التدريب العالمية بمجلس المطارات الدولي. بدأ العمل في مجلس المطارات الدولي منذ عام 2008. كان يعمل سابقاً في شركة الخدمات الأرضية الأسبانية، ومدير مشروع خدمات المطارات الاستشارية، وعمل كمدرب في شركة أينا إيربورتو. نقدم الآن المهندس أرتورو محاضرته. شكراً.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like just to express my gratitude, and on behalf of Airports Council International, our deepest appreciation for the organization of this conference and this exhibition, to His Highness, the Prince, that has already put together all these excellent events, and to all the colleagues from the General Authority of Civil Aviation for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to make this happen. So very glad to accept the invitation to speak and to be in front of you today. And the presentation is going to have these contents. Don't worry, it's like these 10 points, but I will be sticking to the time. And I would like to provide an overview of the different facilitation projects that Airports Council International is pushing and is developing in coordination with stakeholders and closely collaborating with other agencies and partners, and how these projects can have an impact and have certainly an impact in the security, in aviation security, and how can we coordinate all different initiatives between both the facilitation and passenger process point of view and from the security and risk management point of view. So to start with, I just would like to provide a very brief overview of what is ACI, Airports Council International. That's the company I'm working for, the Association of the World Airports and Airport Operators, and what we do at ACI generally. So I would like to give you this overview, and first of all, our vision is to lead, represent, and serve the world airport community. And our members are the airports operators all around the world, distributed all across the world's regions. So we have, moving to the next slide, the mission of advancing the collective interests of the world airports by promoting professional excellence and all the coordination in airport management and operations. And to achieve that, we have 6 priority areas. Of course, safety and security are there, environment, economic development, customer service, and efficiency and innovation. These are our 6 areas of priority. Just to give you an overview of the membership of ACI, we have almost close to 600 airport operators that are ACI members. This is close to 1,700 airports all around the world, and more or less covering around 95–96% of the global passenger traffic. And you can see there different members that we have in terms of numbers. And just to let you know as well in the next slide, the division of ACI World in 5 regions. And this region, the Middle East, belongs to the ACI region of Asia Pacific with the office, the regional office in Hong Kong. And we have our world office in Montreal. We recently moved there just 2 years ago to be closer to one of our main stakeholders, that is ICAO. And ICAO is based in Montreal, as you all know very well. And we made that move to be closer to ICAO and to have our main office there in Montreal 2 years ago. And this slide, I just wanted to let you know as well some of the initiatives of ACI in some areas, as safety. For instance, we have a program that some of you I know that have been involved, that is Airport Excellence in Safety. And it's been very interesting and very productive in terms of coordinating safety improvements. We have the ASQ Airport Service Quality Program as well to promote the standards in passenger service quality all across the world airports. We have several initiatives in training and capacity building for airports with all the areas and all the focus priorities that we've seen. And we have as well a lot of documentation in terms of statistics, data analysis of traffic, and the trends and forecasts for passenger, cargo, and aircraft movements in the next years. That is very important, and we coordinate as well with the industry on those aspects. So this is just about the general ACI overview. The second point that I would like to talk to you today is about one of the ACI World Standing Committees that is dealing with facilitation and services. And this standing committee has defined priorities around passenger facilitation. And the first thing that we've done and we need to do here is just to remind everyone, I know that many of you know, but just to remind everyone what we consider as facilitation, because at the end of the day, managing an airport is managing flows. We need to manage flows of aircraft, flows of passengers, flows of cargo. And in terms of passenger facilitation, the flow of the passengers will be affected by all the different sub-processes and all the different, if you want, just boxes and services that we have there in the overall end-to-end process for the passenger. The main challenge is that none of those aspects is considered or just developed for one of the stakeholders in isolation. We need really to coordinate and to have a close cooperation with governments, with the aircraft operators, with all the other agencies that are operating at the airport. And that's really paramount to provide a good standard in passenger facilitation. And we've seen that, and that's what we're trying to do, is just to get that cooperation ongoing. One of the main aspects that we are considering in passenger facilitation is the impact of these airport processes in the passenger experience, and what is the passenger thinking and perceiving on the services that we as an industry are offering for them for the air transport. So just to let you know, and this is just a very good example on how now airports more and more are focusing on passengers. So far, we've had at the ACI world level 3 main organizational objectives representing the airport interests, promoting airport excellence, and building the ACI capacity. And the passenger focus was more or less understood and more or less considered, but it was not prominent there in those 3 pillars. So very recently, our World Governing Board decided to add a 4th pillar, really focusing on passengers and focusing on what are the passengers' needs, what are the passenger expectations, and how can we improve that passenger flow in the airports, and how can we cooperate and coordinate those developments for the future. And that has been really, really important for our board, and now we are coordinating all these developments internally and with the passenger services and facilitation standing committee in ACI. And by the way, some colleagues here are members of that committee, so we are very happy to have the cooperation from the colleagues from Saudi Arabia in the facilitation committee. Strategic actions of the committee have been already defined, and we have the representation of airport facilitation interests, very important to do that in coordination with the stakeholders, and a specific strategic action on passenger focus to safeguard the interests of the traveling public. Promoting airport facilitation best practices in coordination with other committees as the Security Standing Committee, innovation and developing solutions taking into account information technology to improve that passenger experience. And a very important point that I will touch a little bit in the next slides, that is building resilience of the whole system. And this is important as well from the security point of view. How resilient, how are we ready to really operate under adverse conditions, under situations that are not regular, under disruptions. That's something that is very critical, not only from the passenger point of view, but also from all the other aspects of air travel. That's really a very important consideration. All right, so I was mentioning a little bit the importance of building resilience. And to provide that business continuity framework, we have been working in the committee trying to develop some high-level recommendations on how to deliver and implement a program that can take into account different scenarios of irregular operations and how we can manage as the industry, together with the stakeholders, situations of flight disruptions. We have seen from the last years that there are a lot of different situations that can happen, leading to delays, leading to cancellations, leading to these flight diversions, and so on and so forth, that can be based on some attacks in some cases, some risks that have been detected, some environmental or some catastrophes that may happen dealing with meteorological aspects or earthquakes, and a lot of things that can affect our business. And what we have been trying to do is to define a very high level and simple process to take into account all these different aspects and put together a compendium of plans taking into account business continuity. And we consider a lot of eventualities there and analyzing what we need to have in place to be ready for a disruption, and then what we need to deliver right after the critical incident or accident has already happened. And building the systems around that, we have developed this business continuity management system framework that can be applied to different disruptions. And starting by a project oversight with the leadership and appropriate support from the top management, mapping the core processes, analyzing the operational impact, developing preventive measures, and post-event plans, everything that happens after the critical event. After that is needed to develop crisis management capability, preparedness and quality assurance of these plans, and then, of course, management review of the whole system. And this will be a unique system that every airport operator can have for all different disruptions that can happen, including aspects related to security, including incidents or accidents or any other aspect that can be related to health, to passenger facilitation, to meteorological accidents or incidents, earthquakes, and so on and so forth. So something that is very important. And I just would like to emphasize this in terms of airport security here as well, because we have seen that many operators all around the world, they have different systems that take into account different aspects or different disruptions, but all of them are not integrated. And when something happens, people do not know very well what to do. What we are proposing here is just to have a coordinated approach, taking into account all different things that can happen and having a coordinated response to that. And that's something that we would like to share with you all today as well. So if you would like to have more information of this, yes, you can feel free to check the ACI website. And I will not go through all this slide, but I guess you will have this slide available for you if you want to check. You have the ACI website address there where you can find more information on this business continuity management system that we are proposing as a recommendation. So moving along, another project that we consider is very, very important in terms of passenger facilitation and, of course, security processes is the measurement of the waiting time, the processing times, and the throughput all across the passenger processes. One of those sub-processes is the security checkpoint. But we consider as well measuring all across the entire airport process, considering border control, considering other aspects as boarding and check-in or backdrop, and so on and so forth. So in order to do that and to propose some sort of very basic framework of doing this and implementing this program in the airports, we've delivered, together with the colleagues in the facilitation committee, a program with the objective to provide a framework for measuring and eventually, if the airport wants to benchmark those processing times at all different stages of the passenger process. And this is just an example of how it can be done in one example, in this case, that is the check-in process, but it's exactly another diagram very, very similar for the security checkpoint, considering when we start measuring, when we finish measuring, and having that all across the different processes. So that way, if we have a unique way of doing these measurements, then we can have visibility and comparison of all the different measurements historically using data from the past, and as well if we want to compare with other colleagues, with other airports, if we are measuring exactly using the same methodology, we can do that. If we are not using the same methodology, then we will be comparing different things. So this is something very important as well, and these recommendations are already available as the first stage, that is the manual measurement. There is a second stage of these recommendations that is using automated means. One of the means, as you know very well, is scanning the boarding pass, the 2D barcode that is now embedded in all the boarding passes, and using that as well as a timestamp of the passenger, so then we can calculate times and throughput using that scanning automatically. So that will come in the next months. Moving along, levels of service. This has been really, really a critical point in terms of airport planning and development and building additional capacity or additional buildings. There is a lot of documentation dealing with levels of service, especially dealing with space and spatial design. But a lot of airport operators around the world have had a very important challenge on including the perception of the passenger in the levels of service, including as well what is the real demand of the different systems, how many passengers do we have, and then how are we staffing those different processes and processors all across the passenger different services in the terminal. Because if there are just standards dealing with spatial requirements, we cannot have a comprehensive framework of levels of service if then that space is not used in the correct way, if then we don't measure those waiting times, if then we don't consider what is the models of staffing those different processors. And that's exactly what we are doing in this project that we have been doing for the last 6 months, and is studying what we need to have there in the framework for the airport operators and for the definitions for new buildings and planning for extra capacity. What we need to consider in terms of building a terminal that covers and includes all the needs and expectations of the passengers. And we can do that in a coordinated way as well with other stakeholders. So the first version of this document, taking into account these considerations, will be presented to the ACI board at the next meeting in Istanbul that will happen in a couple of weeks. So happy to provide you more information on that as well. Number 6, really, maybe this is the most important one for this audience, a project dealing with the passenger screening security service quality, and a task force that we have created in coordination with the Airport Security Standing Committee, that, by the way, we have colleagues here present as well that are members of that committee. And the main point for this task force is try to define and develop an ACI customer service excellence program based and focused on passenger security screening. Because we have seen that there is a need and there is that expectation more and more from the passenger point of view on receive a service that meets the required standards and that passengers are treated in a way that they consider friendly and they can go through the process in a user-friendly manner, covering all the security requirements, but taking into account as well what is the perception of a passenger. And how can we, by providing that extra level of service, provide as well a smoother flow and a better management of the whole process? Because if we have happy or unhappy passengers, then the likeliness of having a smoother process and not to have passengers disruptions or unruly passengers at the checkpoint is much higher. And we have considered this very, very carefully. Doing this, the vision is that for the next 3 years, airports that participate in this program and take into account these measures can improve both their scores in the perception from the passenger on the security process, and as well improve the waiting times and the processing rates that they are achieving at their airports. So by doing this, we would like to have that extra into the process and that visibility from all the passengers that things are improving and that the airport operators and the stakeholders involved are doing their best in meeting those requirements and taking those aspects in consideration. Moving forward, another project that we are coordinating really well with ICAO, IATA, and other stakeholders is automated border control. And as already described this morning by the colleague from Australia, this is something that more and more is affecting the way in which the passengers perceive the process, especially on entry, especially on arrival. That's the first point of contact from the passenger to that country, and providing long queues, providing really a process that is not user-friendly and is not efficient, it has a tremendous impact on the service perceived by the passenger. But as well, it has a very, very big impact on the resources that are needed for these processes and the efficiency of the process. So doing this in coordination with IATA, ICAO, other agencies in Europe as Frontex and others, we really want to have a project that can take all the best practices that are already in place in several countries, and we have seen this morning from Australia and New Zealand very, very promising best practices there, to include those and to really expand those best practices and share those with all the states all around the world, just to put those measures in place. So this is something that we are very, very focused. And it is important as well in terms of the synergies between the security and the border control processes that sometimes we mention a little bit. It's not directly the same thing, but we can use a lot of information and a lot of cross sharing of information as well from both processes to be better ready and to use better risk-based approach for the border control process as well, which is very important. Yes, that's in the last 2 points, and I will be very quick. Airport wayfinding, and this is something that we have seen that is important for airport operators. We have seen as well, together with the ICAO and the facilitation panel, in the last meeting of the panel in October last year, it was concluded that there is a need to review and update an ICAO document on signage at the airports that has not been updated for the last 20 years. And there is a good opportunity there to include best practices and to include as well a compendium of different symbols and different pictograms that can be used in different airports and different countries of the world, because we know very well that it's not one size fits all. There are differences in culture, there are differences in perception, and we need to take those considerations in place. But at the same time, there is a lot of room for improvement in terms of providing a very good wayfinding and very good information for the passenger. And this is something that includes as well, of course, the security process and how well the indications and the wayfinding related to the security checkpoint are already defined. So this is something that, again, together with the new working group on facilitation guidance that has been already created by the facilitation panel, we are supporting, and we are really very happy to be coordinating that with ICAO and other stakeholders. And then one of the latest points of this presentation is to share with you as well some lessons learned from the Airport Service Quality, the ASQ program, that, as many of you know, is the world benchmark program to measure passenger service quality all across the airports all around the world. So what we have seen for the last 6 years is that we have had a consistent growth all over the years in the overall satisfaction with the airport for all the airports as an average that participate in the program. So we've seen that in the scale from 1 to 5, that now at this stage we are at 4.08 on that scale, which is good news, because it shows like there is a positive trend, and it shows that together with the stakeholders we are achieving the improvement of the service quality around the airport. So that's something that is very good news. I just wanted to share with you. And just as well, some indication of what are the most important aspects from the passenger point of view in terms of the services at the airport. And we do that measurement correlating what is the score from each one of the passengers on one single point of the service, together with the overall satisfaction. And we see that correlation. And we've seen that for the last 6 years, these are the top indicators that are telling us what is the most important aspects for the passengers. And we see there a lot of things. And we see there that there are things as well related to security, as the thoroughness of security there in number 11. But there are other things as courtesy as well that is very important for the security checkpoint and for the security agents to take into account that courtesy from the staff, and that's something that needs to be considered as well, just to give you an overview and some lessons learned from the program. And just to finish the presentation, I would like just to really stress the importance of cooperation, international cooperation, coordination, collaboration, all these words starting with the letter C that we have, we use a lot in these forums, but it's really the most important thing for being here, sharing best practices, and really finding a way to improve all together and to provide a better way of managing the services that we have and the different parts of those systems, and at the same time provide effective and efficient results, and really based on efficiency, being able to improve and to have a sustainable approach to aviation and air transport. So just to stress that we are totally focused on cooperation, and I put there just some logos just as information, but of course we are open to cooperation with colleagues here and with the colleagues from other states and organizations presented here. So this is just to finish my presentation. I would like to thank very, very much the General Authority of Civil Aviation of Saudi Arabia for inviting me today to be with you, and I will be happy to answer your questions or talk to you in the break. Thank you very much.
نشكر المهندس أرتورو للمعلومات التي قدمها للمؤتمر.